Hello. I'm working on getting y'all's chat showing up. So I'm gonna keep a little bit of music still playing. But how are y'all doing? Y'all doing good? See, there's margaritas in the classroom. Wait. Another rule. If you bring them, you have to share. Make sure I'm not muted. Mary, y'all are funny. Yay. Y'all can hear me. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm still trying to get y'all's chat to show up in the main chat. I'm not sure. There's always something. Oh. Oh yeah, so my hair's a little different now. Okay, good. I think my chat's working now. It's really just more distracting, if nothing else, like when that chat's not working. Okay. I want to say good morning, but it's not morning, is it? It's afternoon. Yeah, I need music. We're going to keep music going for a little longer. All right. So today, there's been quite a bit going on in the news. And we're not going to cover all of it. Probably not going to cover any of it in the newsworthy news type sense of things. What I was going to cover. Okay, hold on. I'm still a little wait, things are a little weird still. Can y'all hear me? I feel like it's being choppy. Loud and clear. Okay. Not choppy. Okay, great. I have a little error thing, but I think it's just that my resolution's too high, so we're going to run with it. Okay, we're going to ignore any YouTube things, and I'm just going to pretend like everything is good, and we're just going to have fun today. So have fun in the terms of, as fun as you can have having oil and gas discussions. So welcome, my name is Tracy Lenz. I'm a petroleum engineer, and this is our live stream every Tuesday at noon-ish, 10 minutes after noon. It's all about the same. The main thing we're going to be talking about is the impact of oil and gas prices over the last week and a half of the conflict in Iran, whatever we're calling it, and going to talk about how that is impacting here in the United States, mineral owners specifically, or anyone that has association with a royalty interest or a producing well, how that's happening over there is affecting here. I think anytime you have any type of news story that is close to the thing that you know stuff about, you tend to get the questions from friends and family. And I've been getting those for sure. I've been seeing questions come in on our various places where you can ask questions, such as our comment streams. And we have we have lots of, if this is your first time seeing this, is we have lots of other videos out there, and there's been comments on those and emails sent to us. It's been an interesting ride. So, I feel like we just went through this with the Venezuela, but this is like the second, a bigger wave of interesting news. So we're going to start by looking at what exactly is, actually, if you have a question and you would like to ask live, we do take live questions during this. It's not just pre-populated questions, so feel free to ask any questions during this live stream. And everything will be recorded. So if you come in and you miss something, you can catch up. It's fine. So, okay. What happened? So again, I don't have slides. I don't have things. I do have things prepared, but more in the form of, we're gonna talk through things. Now, one question I had, and probably the first question, that was something, I don't really think about some of these things. So I love having the questions, first of all. The first question was, how does something overseas that it's affecting an external company's or external country's oil supply, how is that affecting us here if we have so much oil and gas and we're so independent in terms of having our own oil and gas? Why is that affecting our local price reports of oil? And the thing I want to go to would be, let me pull up. I'm going to be pulling up a couple not slides, but websites and whatnot. Okay, wait, let me do this. Okay, so I am partially getting my bearings this morning because the weather did the weather thing again, I guess, and made me nice and dizzy this morning. So I'm a little bit behind, but what's really new? Now, we've talked about before how oil is a global commodity. It's very easy to transport. That's why there's so many news stories about the tankers and transport ships being impacted, and how just that in itself is impacting the price. The reason that is currently impacting us here is because oil can be transported. You can put it on a ship, you can put it on a truck, you can put it on a rail cart, train. You can put it on a train, and you can get it outside of any regional location. You can get it outside of a country, and that is what global trade of oil is. And so anything that affects anywhere else in the world's supply and demand, whether it's someone needing more oil or someone supplying more or less oil, that will affect everyone else that's buying and selling oil, including us here in the United States, because our pricing, because we're not just a closed box that is only, affecting stuff inside our little country, where we're not, we're not cushioned from the rest of the world, because we have trade going out, trade coming in. So that affects the pricing everywhere. There's different places still along that market path of where things can be priced, but that is still going to impact everything. And so that's what we're seeing now. So the potential or the supply is being disrupted. The amount of how much the disruption is changing daily. And that is why we're having such wide swings of what that price impact is, and people guessing how much we're going to have tomorrow and the next month and the next month and the next month, and taking one news story and extrapolating it and trying to infer what the price and what the supply and demand balance will be the next time they need to purchase oil. And then everything else is a domino effect from there. So if there's a country, if there's a refinery, if there's a group of people who think that there's going to be a shortage of any type of product that they need, then they're going to start paying more in order to make sure they get it. That's how this particular thing works. Hey, Martha, how are you? Signing in from Arizona, 3 hours difference now. Wow. Well, welcome to the other side of the world, or, our little world. So Martha, we're talking about the impact of oil and gas prices, over things happening overseas affecting U.S. oil prices and why. Another assumption that I hear is that the U.S. is setting the oil prices, and internally we're like, oh, hey, we can charge higher. And it's a little bit of both, I guess, where it's just like stock. I always go back to stock, like company stocks, things that can be bought and sold. Anytime there's more people wanting to buy it, there's, students are chatty today. Yes, they are. But I like it, though. It makes me feel like I'm not talking to the void. So the other related to that is the U.S. taking advantage of the situation and, raising the prices of oil and gas to take advantage of people who don't have the oil and gas that they will need. And that's not happening. This is just an act of trade that's globally. Everything will go up and everything will go down. I'm sure individually there are places where that's happening. But in terms of the West Texas Intermediate, like WTI prices and Brent prices and anywhere where oil is priced and reported, that is the global kind of all tides. There's a global shortage. There's a global interruption that's happening. And so when that happens overseas, it affects us here. And it doesn't matter how much oil any one particular country has for that country. Sorry. Students are distracting me. That's fine. No, I like it. It's fine. It doesn't matter how much any one particular country's balance of supply and demand is, because their overall supply and demand is affected by anyone they trade with. So that is why anything happening overseas, even if it's just whether or not a ship can cross a border or go across a little tip of a peninsula, that is why that's important to us here. There's been significant supply disruption also just from shutting in of oil or shutting in of pipelines. There's been a lot of destruction of major producing areas, and that is affecting supply for sure. The volumes that we're talking about of just numbers that I've seen countries report that they've shut in or delayed or temporarily had off. You might see the word force majeure thrown around. That just basically means that there's something external forcing them to not produce their product or not supply the thing that they planned on supplying. So a lot of times you might see that term applied to pipelines specifically. And if you're a lease owner and you have a lease in front of you, you actually might see that word on your lease saying that if there's something that's keeping us from producing these wells. It's outside of our control. It's force majeure. Then, and maybe that's I'm guessing that's some French word or Latin word or that I might be mispronouncing, but that's saying that if this particularly happens and it's outside of our control, this clause doesn't count. Other things count towards go into effect. If it's in our control, there's different rules than if it's outside of our control. That's really why it matters of what people call it, whether it's just shutting in versus being forced to shut in. That volume, the volumes I've been seeing, even just casually mentioned in a headline. I mean, I don't know if any headline is casual. That's kind of the nature of a headline being to get it in your face. But all of those volumes have been higher than the amount of Venezuelan oil that we could import. Just to put it in context, sometime or in 2022, there was a potential for disruption that was half the volumes of the amounts of the actual disruption we've been seeing now. So just to put it in that context of things relatively moving, there have been very big actual swings in potential supply and daily producing supply. Now, as far as I know, no one has bombed the underground reservoirs and destroyed the oil entirely. So there's not been a reduction of global supply overall. It's just a disruption of when that will get to the market. So that's been interesting. But what I wanted to hit more was how does $90, $100, $115 oil affect the mineral owner? And when will that affect the mineral owner? Does that happen today? Like, will my check today get higher? Audio's great. Thank you. Yeah. Does that get an instantaneous boost? Like if it goes from $50 to $100 oil, does my check double overnight? Does my offers double overnight? I wanted to cover a little bit of that because there's been such a drastic change. And I've been partly pulling up the latest price deck just because it's been fun to watch. Fun from a news standpoint. Now, how actually fun it is probably depends on where you are on the coin. But I'm not great at doing two things at once, like at the same time. I'm great at doing having a bunch of things open at the same time and popping around to a bunch of different things, but doing actually two things at the same time, that too distracting. But I'm refreshing. I'm pulling the latest price deck as of right now. So when I say I'm pulling the latest price deck, I am pulling the last time that the markets closed and they reported what was happening. And people will have different definitions of latest. The day trade, like the active traders today who are, the market's open right now, their version of latest is this last couple seconds. That's not my version of latest. My version of latest is the last time the market closed and reported daily volumes and daily numbers and daily futures. That's what I'm looking at right now. And I've been, it's been changing so much day to day that it's been hard to almost keep up with. I've been texted all these news stories of, wow, it's at 115 or it's above this much or below this much. And while that's being pulled up, there's been a really great news coverage that if you like this type of coverage, and if you like my way of presenting things, then you'll definitely like her way of presenting things because she's an actual reporter and she actually is good at talking to the camera. And she has, you might recognize her if you watched back in the day Fox News. She hasn't been associated with it for a while, but Jenna, what's her last name? Her program is called Smart Her News, like Smart Her News, and she has a YouTube. She has a couple different places where you can get the information, but I've been really enjoying using her coverage. And let me share just my screen of what I'm seeing. Okay, so this is, I cannot remember her last name right now. Her first name's Jenna. So I think she actually lives here in Austin. She's local, and that was how I got exposed to her 5 years ago. She does an extremely good job of keeping everything fact-based and waiting to hear what the story is and then presenting it in a very, here's what you need to know news way. Like, she doesn't take little clips of audios. She takes the full segment. She listens to the full hearings. She is what a reporter has historically tried to be, and really holds those standards very high. I've been keeping up with her too. She's good. Yeah, she also has, like, her angle is she was talking to a lot of women who just weren't keeping up with the news because it doesn't, like, the news schedule and the news delivery doesn't fit their lifestyles with, busy days during takes and childcare and just TV being different these days even. So she takes the angle of let's put the news in bite-sized places where people are. So Facebook Reels and YouTube stories and whatnot. So she has a really good latest one. So this Untold Impact of Iran's Conflict. It's about an hour long. She also has this podcast on the podcasting network, Spotify, iTunes, all those. And this Untold Impact of Iran's Conflict does a good job of summarizing the oil side of it specifically. So if you're wanting to know a little more about that end of it, then I highly recommend hers for the actual, like, world news angle. So just wanted to share that because you're not going to get the world news angle definitely from this stream. So because I just, clicked the wrong buttons. Okay. So I have the latest oil commodity prices pulled up now. And my goodness, is it off the screen? Is that what happened? Yeah, it's off the screen. Okay. Sorry, I have to change the axis of my chart because I didn't have it going that high prior to this. Okay. All right, so this is what I've been pulling up. And I figured I'd just go ahead and open it. Y'all could see what I'm doing rather than me just having nothing. Okay. We'll just zoom in a little more onto here. Yeah, there we go. That's the point I was looking for up here. Okay. Now, the fun part. So right now, looks like as of, should be yesterday. Let me double check. That is the case. So as of the close of the market yesterday, West Texas Intermediate oil was trading at $94.85. And Henry Hub gas was at $3.13. So that's these points here. You can see it's It's a roller coaster. We've always known this about oil and gas prices. It's a roller coaster. This spike in the natural gas pricing, that is just from that winter storm we had come through, where most of the U.S. got a massive winter storm dumped on them for several days in a row. That is what this spike is. It got up to, I think I saw stories of, 100 or very, very high, we'll just say very high natural gas prices. And for where the average for, January was $7.72 for Henry Hub. That is quite a jump, but as you can see, it did not affect the forward, like the overall nature of what gas prices were expected to do in the future. For reference, what I have here is the dashed lines here are on February 1st, what the general commodity traders, like what people who watch and trade on the price of oil and the price of gas were expecting the price of oil to do in the future and what they were expecting the price of gas to do in the future. So there's always spikes of the gas prices every winter. And so there being a massive spike in winter, it wasn't planned on it being that high, but it didn't impact the future rates that were expected to happen. Maybe short term, a little bit of disruption of that, but nothing abnormal. But this oil impact, oil was riding right around 62. We'd fallen below 60 for a little bit in there. And there was an expectation that oil would be priced somewhere in the $60 range for the next several years. And a lot of people were going off of that assumption that with everything that we could see as of the time, there was no reason to believe that we would suddenly have a shortage or like there was this fine balance of people, of multiple different groups of people trying to keep oil prices somewhere around $50 to $60 in there. And that $60 range was something that, we'd settled down to over about a year and was expected to maintain forward. So if you got an offer on your oil and gas assets, they most likely, if it was before the Iran conflict, we'll just keep calling it, if it was before that time, probably it was priced around $60, like expecting oil prices to be around $60 from here for the next 5-ish years. That is not the case right now. How long this will be sustained, that's the big debate right now. We know that oil prices are high, and even so if Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago was when the first news story on there being the attack, or the was it Operation Epic Fury? Was that it? When that happened, by Sunday night, the expectation was that oil prices would be up at least $15. Little unsure as to how much it would go up, but knowing it would go up instantly. So even just that very first night, that was before all the following news stories about destruction of supply, disruption of supply. That was before all of those many things started to happen. So if we jumped up immediately just because of the fact that there was a conflict, right? So we knew it was going up. And this price here, so this $94.85 is what things are actually selling for. So if you want to think of it like that is you go to the grocery store and you buy a gallon of milk, it's a certain amount at your grocery store. And different grocery stores across the country have slightly different prices for that gallon of milk, and different grocery stores have slightly different prices for whole milk versus 2% versus organic versus non-organic. Like there's different qualities and different uses for the milk, but and everyone, even the same grocery store might have different pricing for whole milk versus 2%. And then there's different supply and demand, even just on something like milk, right? That same thing's happening on oil. So if you go to the grocery store and you get milk for $6, that is the same, and that is an average milk price across the country is $6. And then maybe the consumer index is saying that milk on average is $6. That's the same as saying that WTI oil is trading, the spot price is $94.85. If you go to the store, and get a barrel, which is about 42 gallons, not about, it's exactly 42 gallons in the United States anyway. You're going to get 42 gallons of oil, across, if consumer price index had oil as its thing at the grocery store you could purchase, it'd be on average $94.85. And then the different grocery stores, we should say, they have slightly different variations based on the quality of that oil and the, how far you have to drive to stock that grocery store and whatnot. But that average price that people are actually selling for on the 9th of March is $94.85. All these other lines, so everything from, let's see if I can insert everything from that point forward is people guessing what's going to be happening in the future. So this is from here, I don't think that's perfectly straight up and down, but y'all get the idea. Everything forward from here going forward is people guessing and betting what the price of oil will be in the future. So this would be a way to look at the average consensus on how much whatever's happening now is affecting the future as well. So gas prices jumping because of the storm, the general consensus was that didn't affect things long term. But this causing oil prices to jump, the general consensus is that it is affecting things long term. And the reason this matters is because if something isn't affecting the price long term, then it won't affect the offers that you're getting. It won't affect the value of your minerals long term. It won't affect how much you could sell them for in the future. It only affects how much that one check, that 1 month of payment for that one little spike, it might affect that one check a lot. I'm not downplaying how much a spike can change one amount of payment. However, it's not going to affect any other number in the basis of it anyway. I'm sure that there's people out there who are going to use this spike of production of gas value temporarily to use the multiples method wrong, we'll just say. So if you were to just take the last 3 months or 6 months of cash flow and take the gas price and project that forward, you'd be wrong. You would be it would depend on how much you're averaging in, but I mean, even if you took a 12-month average, you'd be high, most likely, to what was projected in the future. But this is why it's a dangerous game to only look in the past to project the future, because the actual wedge of more or less that you'll be getting is not tied to what happened in the past. It's tied to what people project to happen in the future. So, and I know I'm talking very abstract. Hopefully I'm not losing too many people, but going back to this $94 plus oil that we're dealing with now, when will you actually feel this wave of increase? So when we're looking at if this is the price of oil at the market, right? At the marketplace, you are not getting paid. So even the royalty owner who's getting paid the quickest out there, the average amount of time between oil being produced and paid market prices to it going through all the places where it needs to go and going to your check that you're getting is about 2 months for oil and about 3 months for gas. So we're in March, and this was the January storm. If you have gas wells, natural gas wells, this month and next month is likely when you're going to see that impact of high natural gas prices in your check statement. So what you're getting paid, if you're getting paid on natural gas, that wave of high production is about to hit your check statements and your checkbooks. And if you're getting automatic deposit, that cash received in the mail or however you receive it, that wave is about to come to you. How much that is will depend on how much gas production you have and where in the country you were, because gas is a very local market. And it depends on how cold the market was closest to where your well lives, because that was the easiest place for that gas to get to. So if you're in the Northeast, it got much colder there than if you're in the Northwest, right? Yeah, that's funny. Geez, watch your language, Mary. I believe you meant to say hitting, or did say hitting. Yeah. So that wave is hitting now. In the same light, even if everything went right back to normal tomorrow for whatever reason, like who knows what tomorrow will bring, if whatever news story comes out tomorrow makes this go all the way back down to 60 or lower, there will still be a wave of $100 oil coming through about, March, April, May, about May. Yeah, you did say hitting. Sure you did. Sure you did. So that will be hitting around May for most people. However, the impact to this future value happened overnight. So you might already be getting higher offers than you were getting a week ago, because the future expectation was raised overnight. So if your checks are the things that happened in the past and the offers are the things people think will happen in the future, the offers and the market value of your asset is higher today than it was 2 weeks ago. Almost across the board, almost anywhere you are, there wouldn't have been enough production in most places over the course of 2 weeks to offset the amount of value increase that we saw from just commodity prices raising. Even if it only, this is only expecting futures in April to be at $80. I've seen all sorts of numbers everywhere from it's going to go back down to 60 eventually up to it's going to 200. And I'm sure y'all are going to see and hear all the same things. Don't get too caught up in the roller coaster that is oil and gas futures projection. It doesn't really matter what one individual thinks oil will be at the end of the year. It matters what the overall market thinks oil will be as a consensus when it comes to raising or lowering market values of the future, and then also raising and lowering what oil is trading for today. So what you're actually getting in the check and what you're potentially going to get in the future is much closer to the consensus than any one, high, low point that you're going to see out there. So ignore most of the news stories in general. I mean, back when oil was going down, I saw news stories of it going to 200, and that definitely wasn't affecting anyone's projection at that point. There's always a random reason, and a lot of people get things wrong as to the impact of any one particular thing. So don't pay too much attention to that. Pay attention to this future. I think that a lot of the projections right now are premature. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh, we're at $90 or $100 oil. We're going to be at that the rest of the year. Look at all these people that are hedged at 60. Oh, wow, they're losing so much money the whole rest of the... There's a lot of people projecting very far with a very short amount of information. Yes, this will be I can't see any way that this would be a short impact to the market. However, there's a lot of other things that can impact the market also. And the one thing that we have consistently been seeing is that this entire situation is moving quickly and changing day to day. And so if you were to hinge on anything, hinge on the fact that their oil is going to likely be in this window, and there's still the uncertainty, and maybe like the short term has gone up. But don't bet any long-term bets right now unless you know that you're a betting person and you want to be a betting person. If you're just trying to manage things appropriately, my unofficial, this is not financial advice, this is a free person on the internet giving you free advice, type of level of advice here is to just take things very slowly and very carefully, very cautiously. The market does not respond in terms of offers and lending and values as quickly as the stock market does. So in terms of, when I say the market, if you were to put your minerals for sale today, even if this exact same thing happened a month from now, if this was still the same thing a month from now, you'd be able to get a higher price for it a month from now, because the market in general would be more sure that they could trust that those prices would hang in there. There's definitely a lag in that trust factor of everything going up. Like the day after things started to change, I know that there were financial analysts running the numbers, changing models that next day. That for sure was happening. However, the time it takes for that to impact what a landman is sending in their offers and willing to accept is not overnight. So in terms of on average though, right? Of course there are going to be people overnight who do change what they're doing, but on average. So with that, whenever there is uncertainty, my general advice is to hold and wait and see, especially if things are going up. Uncertainty always makes things difficult to properly price. It makes it difficult to time it correctly. And I don't know. There's different angles, of course, you could be taking at this. But just letting you know that this is where we're sitting right about now. Tomorrow it will look different. The next day it will look different. But the long story short, oil is being affected. It is affecting fair market values. It is affecting long-term expectations of cash flow at this point. And right now, let's see, this overall impact. So even though oil right now is about, it's been over, around double at times of what it was in the past, the overall impact to a market value of a property is probably only up about 30% if I were to ballpark that, at most. So you're going to get more credit for this near term like wedge here than the smaller stuff that's out in the future. But yeah, it's not a 1-to-1 with how much oil prices are up today in terms of how much the futures are up also. So yeah, just throwing out some numbers like that in case you're trying to plan the exact right timing to do things. All right, any like specific questions that we're missing Fred. Let me pull up. I did have let me get some of those other questions. There was one that I got that I wanted to. I answered it last night on the actual comment itself. Okay, this video we're gonna go into more of the. That's awkward watching myself say stuff, but all right. If I go to here. Okay, this was on our oil and gas lease royalties beginner's guide for mineral owners. It's on this post here, and the question was: my siblings and I are getting paid different royalty amounts. We all have the exact same division order percentages. Why the different amounts, and what can we do? So I loved that question. So I went ahead and can I close this thing over here? We'll do this. Okay. So if this same thing is happening to you, that's right, Mary. You ask where Fred is. We'll have the class get on to him later. Oh, it's awkward to have my face over there on the side. Okay. So if you and your sibling or you and your cousin all should be paid the same, but you aren't getting paid the same, there's a couple things to check on that. The first is to check that the owner interest decimals are the same, and that's on the revenue statement. There are, it'll say the well name that you're being paid for, it'll say the date of that payment, and then it will say the amount that well produced, and then it will probably somewhere in there, it will say your owner decimal or owner interest, owner distribution. There's probably 2 decimals. They're probably the same, but look at that first decimal and see if that matches what's on the division order. If everyone's division order said the same number and everyone's revenue statements all have the same interest also, and the royalty payments are still different, then go to number 2. But if those are different than your division order, first start there. That number should match your division order. And if it doesn't, then contact owner relations and ask why. I do see it sometimes where they're broken up into multiple interests of payment. So you might need to add up a couple in order to get to your division order. But if that's the case, then your division order should be set up the same way, where there's royalty interest 1, 2, 3, royalty interest 1, 2, 3. They're probably using the same system to create the division order as they are the check. So it wouldn't make sense necessarily for those to be different. Second, so if those are the same, then check the deductions, and specifically the tax deductions. If one sibling is getting more or less taxes withheld, do they live in a different state than the other sibling? I mean, that's a very common thing. Different states have different taxation, and that state might have state income. You might have missed sending your W-9, or maybe your sibling missed sending their W-9 to the company, so they don't know how to tax them. So they're just holding maximum taxes out. You always want to make sure that the company knows where you live, so they know what type of taxes to assume that needs to be withheld and sent directly to the state or to the federal government. Third, check the lease terms that each sibling agreed to. So even though y'all have the same interest, it came from the same place, you all have your own unique property that you own, and so you can negotiate your own lease. So it's likely that you all signed the same lease at the same time. However, it's not guaranteed. And one sibling might have negotiated something different than the other sibling. Or maybe that sibling pushed back more. And so maybe they didn't even know that they negotiated for it. They just said, I want a better lease. Send me a better lease. Or they said no more times, just in general. Or they were harder to contact. I don't know. Like there's things that that can cause these random things to happen. That could cause specifically post-production costs. Those post-production costs might be in one lease and not in the other, and that can make a massive difference. And then finally, I would compare the months of production that you're comparing. If you say, well, I got paid $100 last month. Well, I got paid $200 last month. That's weird. We had the same interest. Check on the revenue statement how many months of production each of you were being paid for, because there's things that can affect when they send that check. And it could be that there was a change of address that processed a month after the other sibling. And so one sibling got 2 months of production because they got paid a month later. So there could be different timings, different adjustments that needed to be made. Maybe they were paying them incorrectly and then they had to fix it, and then that caused a wave of corrections to come through. That those checks can have multiple months of production in them. So just know that could be happening also. But yeah, if all of those if it's none of those and y'all are still getting paid different, I've definitely seen it where there was an error in one sibling's deck, which is what they call it. The interest that the company is paying is called the deck that they're paying on, like a deck of cards, like who gets what, if you want to think of it like that. I've definitely seen it where it got processed incorrectly for 2 of the siblings, but not the third, or it got processed incorrectly or transferred from one company to the other, like if one was purchased for the mother and the uncle, but not for the daughter. There are things like that can cause inconsistencies even between family members. So that's always a great thing to check. Okay, Martha, you said there's a new well being drilled on our mineral rights. There we go. There's a new well being drilled on our mineral rights. If this well affects us, will producers automatically start paying? Would we get a division order in advance? You might not get it in advance, but you would get it in advance of them paying you. And when I say you might not get it in advance, you might not get it in advance of them drilling or of them completing or even them starting to produce it. It normally has a bit of a lag because it takes a bit of time for them to figure out who all should be paid, because a lot of times who gets paid is very dependent on how much of the producing lateral is in each parcel of land, and then they have to do the math and distribute it to the correct owners based on the 23% in the north half of this and the 22% down here. And well, we drilled it this far, but we only were able to complete half of that. And so that all of those changes that can happen last minute, you want to be paid on what's actually happening. So you have to wait to see what actually ended up being drilled and completed and produced in order for that to be distributed correctly. And so if that doesn't happen till the well is producing, then the trickle-down effect can sometimes cause there to be months and months of delay between first production and that division order being sent out saying, okay, we did the math, we did the research, here's how much we think you should get. Do you agree? That's what the division order is saying. And that division order, again, look up the National Association of Division Order Analysts. there is a recommended template for those division orders to follow. Not everyone is following them all the time. So just either they know it or they don't know it. They sometimes sneak different terms in there, things that don't need to be in there. It's state dependent. But for the most part, division orders should have something on there saying that this does not alter or change any existing contracts. We're simply laying out what we think is happening and seeing if you agree with it and giving you a chance to dispute anything before money starts flowing, because it's hard to change things once money starts flowing. So we want to give you a chance to dispute things before that starts happening. So that will go out, and then, you'll send everything back that you need to send. And if you were in Oklahoma, I'd say you probably didn't even need to have to send it, but I know that you're in not Oklahoma. Then probably about 2 months later, you'll get that first check. So you might still have, if the well's being drilled right now, you probably have at least 6 months before you see anything. Maybe sooner, but that's probably 4 to 6 months is when I would start keeping an eye out for things in the mail, notices. Be looking on the state website. Be looking on pecanestimate.com for what's happening and if the well's completed yet. So I did see your stuff you submitted, Martha. So I have it on my list to look at still. So I thought I'd have Crystal Cam. I even had Crystal Cam ready to go. But there's no Crystal Cam today because Crystal got distracted, I guess, and went elsewhere. So no Crystal Cam today, which is probably why we didn't have as many viewers today. Just, not as interesting of topic. There was no funny dog in the background knocking over the camera. But with that, I'm going to call it. I know that we started a little late, but I know there's a lot of questions that can arise. I'd love to take those and help you work through them. So feel free to email, text, I would say call, but you'd probably get Kelly, which Kelly is lovely to talk to. You're welcome to call and ask Kelly a question, and she could submit it for our weekly Q&A. But you probably email is easier, or leaving a comment or question on one of these posts or wherever you're seeing this. We do get this to a lot of different places. Also, if you've watched all the way to the end now and you're enjoying this content, we have a lot more online. Make sure to like and subscribe to help get this content out to other people, and that you're alerted to more stuff that we're doing, because we do a weekly live stream just like this most weeks. We aim for weekly and then go from there. Thank you, Mary. I'm glad the graph was helpful. Thanks on the new look. Yeah, I just was feeling the need to change it up a little. If anyone that's been around a while, I've had a lot of different hairstyles, and YouTube is starting to record those now. You have this running history of all your different hairstyles when you do regular YouTube videos, but it's fine. Let's see. I had one more thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah. If you've watched all the way to this part here, we do have an online platform to help with mineral management and mineral valuation. We are an engineering firm. We've put all that stuff back into our platform and made an amazing, outstanding, one-of-its-kind platform called Pecan Estimate. And it is like Zillow in a sense, where you can go and plug in your information and see instantaneously what that value of those minerals are, what wells you're in, what production those wells are making, what the status is, who the operator is, what the value of each individual well is. And here's the cool part, which we're really excited about. You can see what formations, what reservoirs are remaining. So in the industry, we call that 3P reserves: proven, probable, and possible. So it's the producing stuff, it's the proven, not yet producing stuff, and the probable and possible. All of that is being valued in the market value, and it's very difficult to find that anywhere because you don't have to publicly report your probable and possible reserves, even if you're a publicly traded company. So it's definitely not something that most mineral owners get. We've created our own model where we analyze everything and we put it back out to the public in digestible, dosable forms that make it affordable and available. So if you're interested in that, please send us a note. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, that is all I have. And I will see y'all next week. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I hope you'll have a wonderful week. And again, if the news is being overwhelming, I don't think it's a bad thing to just take a break from it and ignore it for a day or two, because yes, the stuff that you need to know about, people will tell you whether you want to hear it or not if that's happening. So feel free to stick your head under a rock for a minute if you need to. All right. Have a good day. I'll see y'all later. And bye.